Welcome back to the Make Life Work podcast with me, Si Jobling. On this podcast, we talk to people from around tech about how they find a balance between work, life, and any side projects to share the stories, challenges, and life hacks so others can learn themselves. This time around, I've joined forces with two previous guests of the podcast, Sam Hardacre and Mike Street, to ask each other questions about our side projects and invite along other members from our On The Side Slack community to share their stories too. This week, we're joined by a relatively new member of our community, Jesse Payne. I've known Jesse through previous jobs, which we may talk about at some point, and I've always enjoyed our conversations about doing proper UX and product design. So without further ado, let's get into it and introduce ourselves. Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike Street. I'm lead developer and CTO for a small Brighton-based web agency called Liquid Light.
Hi, I'm Sam Hardacre, and I'm a designer, developer living in Halifax, working for a company in Leeds.
Hi, I'm Jesse Payne. I'm a product designer who dabbles a bit in code, currently based in Shrewsbury.
I am Si Jobling. I'm what's known as a delivery lead in fintech industry for a large financial company. How is everyone doing today?
Fantastic.
Very well, thank you.
We're finally working.
Yes, I love tech.
We love tech. For the listeners' benefit, we just had a nightmare trying to get this conversation started, and we've had to take two. So yeah, there might be some overlap and missed pieces.
We've most definitely not been saying this twice already.
Definitely not repeating ourselves again.
My fantasticness is genuine, I promise.
Yeah, genuinely. And welcome along, Jesse. Good to have you on board, mate.
Thank you. Yeah, great to be on board. I've listened to a few episodes, not all the episodes yet, if I can admit that.
All right, yeah, kick him off.
At least you know what you're letting yourself in for. With a dog as well. It's all right. We've got an additional guest to the podcast this week. We've got a dog in the background too.
He's got a lot to say.
They always do. How's life treating everyone at the moment?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. I was saying in the lost recording, I've been booked in for the vaccine tomorrow, so that's good.
Nice.
Yeah,
you'll be safe. But how the hell did you jump that list, man? Because you're not in that 40 to 49 bracket.
I think it's because when I was a teenager, I had some pretty serious respiratory problems, so I think they must have just bumped me up the list because of that. I'm absolutely fine now. Like, I don't have any problems now, so it was quite a surprise to get that text.
Yeah, my sister, she managed to get up the list somehow. We're trying to work it out, but she's had medical history in the past as well, which probably helps.
Yeah.
I think it's weird because my wife is in the 40 to 49 year old bracket. She's a teacher and she's not getting it. I'm like, for God's sake, it just bothers me that duck.
Yeah. See, that's the kind of thing that makes me kind of feel a bit guilty. Like, am I legitimately at risk, really? Because, I've managed so far.
We have worked out, though, there is a way of just bumping your way up the list anyway.
Oh, I can't put that on the podcast, surely. Insider tips.
Well, I might take that bit out, but it is bad.
Did you guys see the news article where one guy got bumped up the list, and when he inquired about it, it's because when he registered with his doctor's surgery, they put his height down as 6 centimetres instead of 6 foot.
Yep.
Yeah.
He
was just massively obese.
Yeah, his BMI was like 28,000 or something.
I love that there's no check in place to make sure that no one could be under, I don't know what the minimum size would be for a human, but you would think 6 centimetres would be below the threshold.
Yeah, no minimum input.
Yeah.
Try using your input fields properly. Yeah, so welcome aboard, Jesse, as well. So do you want to just give us a bit of context to what you do in your job as well? Because I think we know each other from the past. What are you up to nowadays?
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one because I feel like I bounce all over the place. Traditionally, I studied as a graphic designer and then moved into UX. And then when we worked together, Si was kind of a blend between doing user research and UX design, kind of more focusing on wireframing and stuff like that. And then moved back more into kind of UI and product strategy as a product designer, which is where I feel like my kind of strengths are. But yeah, definitely got an interest in, I've developed more of an interest in kind of doing front end as well. So I've picked up a bit of, I kind of self-taught HTML and CSS when I was at college. And I've been improving those kind of over the years, building my own, mostly skilling up through building my own website. But picked up React and JavaScript recently. So have also kind of, there's been times where I've been 50%, maybe even 80% of my time has been kind of building components in React and stuff, and building the UI that I'm designing, which I do really enjoy as well.
Bit of an all-rounder by the sound of it then. You've got the product mind, the UX mind, and the dev mind.
Yeah, jack of all trades, master of none is what some people would describe it. But I'm
That's how I used to self-describe, yeah, I know.
I like the idea of being, there's something about like knowing enough to be dangerous in all these different areas. That's how I like to think of it.
Do you find that knowing, like teaching yourself the sort of HTML and CSS and building stuff in React, has that impacted your sort of UI, UX design at all? Do you sort of think, oh, actually, this is going to make more sense from a developer to build it like this or something? Or do you just like put that, do you sort of box up those thoughts and sort of put them away to help you sort of think differently?
Yeah, it's really hard because the change kind of happens really slowly as well as you pick up, dev skills from being a designer. So I think my way of thinking changed like really slowly. I think once I started to learn about, objects and, Booleans and stuff like that in code, I think it's really affected how I think about components and stuff. Because I would be like, oh, this is a switch, this is on off. Whereas now I'm like, oh, this is like a type of Boolean. Or like learning more about HTML as well, like learning how something like a checkbox should work in HTML, or like a radio button definitely informs, how I build it. And another thing that I've also been really interested in is accessibility. So I think that also feeds in, and to kind of be good at accessibility as well, you kind of need to know how that stuff should work. Obviously on web, it's really different to apps. But yeah, for web stuff, like learning about HTML also teaches you about accessibility, and it all feeds into each other. I think it's kind of been really slowly that my thinking has shifted, but yeah, it's definitely changed the way I think about design.
It's all interesting stuff though, isn't it? Shall we get into our first question of the week? What your learnings have been from the past week? Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I don't mind going first. That's fine. Yeah, so I've got two learnings this week. So this week I've actually started lettering my comic, which is really good. People who've been listening to the podcast recently will know I've been working on this for ages, and it's becoming a bit like a broken record, saying still colouring. So now I can finally say I'm lettering, which is good. So my lesson this week is that lettering a comic is very difficult. You sort of approach it initially thinking, or you might approach it thinking, it's just letters, it's just words in a bubble, straightforward, pretty good. But then when you scratch the surface, you realise that there's a lot more to it. And I'm just learning as I go. I'm kind of figuring out my process as I go. But it's not as much of a learning curve, I don't think, as colouring, because it just isn't. Or at least for me, I'm finding some of the core concepts a lot easier to grasp than colouring comics. And obviously, it's not as large a task either, because you're not colouring entire pages. You're sort of focusing on certain aspects of it. So that's my first lesson. My second lesson is, the thing I've learned about this week is the universal hand signal for help, which in the current climate and the current things that are going on in the news at the moment, it's quite a good thing to sort of share out with people, because I certainly didn't know about it, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and it's becoming a lot more kind of. Well, I suppose it's a shame that it's needed, but it's certainly good to know.
Definitely. I think I saw that probably similar time to you last week. There was a video example of a woman doing the signal on a video call, just to signal she's in a domestic violence situation. And it was an education, so I instantly retweeted, because I think, like all of us, we just need to know about this stuff, and it's how tech can help. Not always, as we know, perfect. But yeah, I'm loving the fact that there is something like this going on. But it's a shame that it has to happen. As we were saying beforehand, it's a shame that we're in a situation where women have to have a signal to say help. And I also want to add that it shouldn't be limited to just women as well. I think there are men that are in similar situations that can't communicate this stuff. So it's predominantly female, but there is a window where men need to know about this stuff as well. But on that note, we don't want to get too topical. I know it's very sensitive subject, but yeah, good shout, and we'll get the details in the show notes as well. Mike, what have you been learning this week?
How easy it is to become obsessed with new tech. So I think last week I mentioned about the fact that I was converting my blog to 11T. So I think last Thursday, sorry, where are we? We're going to go live on a Monday, so it would be like a week and a half ago. It's very confusing. I pushed my site live, so that's now using 11T rather than the old Craft CMS. And then the Friday night, I decided to rebuild one of my side projects, which is my beer rating thing. So I post beers on Instagram and give them a rating and a little review. And I'd built a little website that sort of pulls the data from Instagram and displays it in a website that's searchable and stuff. So I just kind of, my wife was having a Zoom call in the evening with some friends, so I had like a free evening, a bonus evening, and I sort of sat down to see how far I could get with 11T and my beer stuff. And there is now, I basically sat down and the first thing I did was buy a new domain name, and so I got that populated, looking at Netlify, shoved up a site which now has like all my beer ratings. Each beer has an individual page. I got so nerdy with like metadata and stuff. So yeah, I'm in like 11T heaven, not 11T hell. I'm in 11T heaven at the moment, and I won't shut up about it. And I've written lots of blog posts about stuff. So yeah, it's easy to get obsessed with new tech and excited about new tech. And I hope that this excitement and this obsession kind of stays, and that I don't in 6 months go, oh, I'm going to rebuild it in Gatsby or Hugo or anything else. No, 11T. 11T is where it is. Shout out to Zach Leatherman. That's his surname. I hope I've said it right.
We'll fact check that with him.
Si, what have you learned?
Oh, a few things. So one of the, I think we've talked about previously, I've had problems with my feet and my legs from trying to do some fundraising and running. I've learned I've got flat feet officially. So
Wow.
the podiatrist has suggested, I'll get all seen to, get fitted with insteps and this sort of stuff. I've got an appointment this evening. So that's the first lesson for me. I've got flat feet. I've had them for 40 odd years. I should do something about it. The other thing I've learned this week, a bit more related, I've been recording my time use over the last sort of 2 months, give or take, in a Google Sheet. So I've become a little bit obsessive about recording what I'm up to every half hour of the day, right?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like ridiculous, but you can sort of set a trend for the day or the week, really, of like, well, we'll be working for those hours, and that's pretty much the block. But what I'm finding now is my learning. I don't know what to do with all this data. I've got like 2,000 units of information here to pull apart and analyse, but now I can't remember why I bothered and what I'm going to do with it now. So I've learned I'm a bit of a data junkie, a bit of an obsessive with this stuff, but I'm not very good at working out the why. So this is why I need a product person or a designer to come in and go, why? Have a 5-year-old mindset.
Surely it's for your like year in review post. That's the only reason we gather data these days, right? So at the end of the year, you could be, I spent this many hours working, I spent this many hours sleeping, spent this many hours playing bass.
That's one reason, right?
It's just, and then you can feel depressed about how much you've worked.
Yeah, that's one reason. I mean, one of the reasons was I've got this idea of building like a toolkit framework for helping people build side projects, finding the time to do it. So that's the kind of the general catch-all purpose of this. But I want to just kind of dig deep into this and go, right, how do I categorize these units into something and go, these are needed, these bits are nice to haves. Then I can work out where your flexibility might be and how you fill it with work, like side project time instead of wasted time, as I sort of highlighted before. So my lesson is I'm a bit of a data junkie and I don't know why. I need to go back and rethink what I'm going to do with all this. Jesse, what have you learned this week?
Learning that about you is quite interesting. That's given me lots of ideas about. I feel like you need a dashboard or something to put all of that on, and then you got something shiny to look at. And yeah, now I want to see like Si's year in review. I'm not interested in Monzo's year in review. I want to know what your year in review was like.
Much more important.
But yeah, I think for me, the last week, one of the big things that I've been trying to do in order to kind of free myself up to work on side projects and self-improvement and stuff is get a bit more of a handle on fitness. I've definitely let myself go during lockdown. I used to play like five-a-side once a week, and then obviously that's just not happening now. So bought an exercise bike, and I've been going on that like 4 or 5 times a week. And there's like stats and stuff that you can see. So apparently, according to my bike, I've done like nearly 100 miles in like 3 weeks. So that really like made me feel like, wow, like I've learned that I can push myself and kind of fit exercise in with work. All I needed was apparently the right kit. But so that was good. I think like work wise, I've definitely done a lot of soul searching the last couple of weeks. I'm coming up to my 1 year anniversary. So I've kind of really thought about what I want to get out of it, kind of looked back at what I've achieved and stuff like that. And I think the more I do this, the better I feel about what I'm doing. It's a weird skill to develop, and you don't even know that you need it. And then when you do it, you're like, why don't I do this more often? Why don't I, take the time to do this? So yeah, I think that all of that's given me more energy to spend on other things and stuff. Side project progress hasn't been super great last couple of weeks, but yeah, very slow, small improvements. I was trying to do form validation the other day, building my own hook in React and following tutorials, and got really deep in TypeScript and got lost. I need a dev to come and help me. But yeah, no, that was fun as well. I like getting lost in coding problems.
No one normally says that, but I know what you mean. Yeah, but at least with our shameless plug here, our community, you can probably ask questions to support that, tech mindset.
Yes, I should definitely ask someone to teach me TypeScript properly.
There's plenty of geeks in the community that will probably be able to help, and that's not an offensive way. I love geeks; they're the best. Nice one. So plenty of good learnings this week, actually. So another good range, good stuff. Shall we go into the first question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. So the first question this week is: does tech/platform knowledge drive the side projects you pursue, and what tools do you tend to use? Mike, do you want to go first? I did think about asking Jesse, but I thought I won't throw him under the bus straight away.
Give him a chance.
Thanks. Yes, I suppose in terms of I sometimes think of side project ideas and stuff, and I might discount them because I don't have the skills to do it, or I might change the specifications of the side project to suit my skill set. And in terms of like the platform, I tend to go in phases of new platforms and stuff. So, for example, I was looking for a few years ago. I was looking for a new CMS for my personal website, and I chose Craft CMS, and Craft CMS is really good. Like really good. I've really enjoyed using it. And me moving away from it is no fault of Craft. It was just me being nerdy. And so I then like got into Craft. I sort of really like I dived deep within Craft and sort of like explored it and stuff. And it was almost like chicken and egg in the fact that I'd come across things in Craft and be like, oh, I really want to build something with that feature. What could I build? And then that kind of sits in the back of my mind. And next time I have a sort of side project idea, I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. And so I then built a couple of side projects with Craft. So Behind the Source, where I interview developers and stuff, and my email newsletter database, both built in Craft. And then it sort of like shift. So I then sort of discovered Eleventy. Everyone was talking about Eleventy online. So I was like, oh, what can I build with this? I really want to, I want to have a side project to build with it. And then so my first thing was, I can convert Behind the Source. So Behind the Source was converted to Eleventy. And then that sort of inspired me then to convert my site, which then inspired me to convert my beer site and stuff. So it's very much, in terms of tech and platform, it's very chicken and egg. I use side projects to try new things, but I don't often try new things for every side project kind of thing. They tend to follow a theme.
Wow. I guess I'm just so used to sometimes Mike's answers like, nope, don't know what to answer for this. Cool. So, Si, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much blown away by what Mike just said. So I think there's a bit of an element to everything that I do is a chicken and egg situation. You kind of go, well, I like this. What can I do with it? And then you get into it, you go, oh, now I can use that on this. And it goes round and round. the nature of the kind of projects I do are they're less codey than they used to be, let's say. More like communities, podcasts. So it's more multimedia and, less techie framework sort of things. But what I've found that I have, being a Mac man, obviously, I'm always in GarageBand to do the podcast. I don't generally use like the high-end tools that are available. I don't need to. GarageBand serves a purpose. It's pretty good at this sort of stuff. I've become familiar with it, so I know that I can just jump around it quite quickly with the keyboard shortcuts and editing points and stuff like that. So I do find that I just stick to the tools I know, but I've got used to over time as well. If I was to go back into developing something, I'd probably go, well, what's hot right now? What's good? What's something I can learn? But at the same time, I'd still be thinking about the old stuff I used to use. Like a lot of my apps that are still in PHP, for example, or WordPress. All my websites are in WordPress. So I just know how to get them up and running, get them in there, get the plugins in there to get it working, and not worry about all the code that a lot of people would. I just don't see the point. I'd rather just get something out there and see if it works. So I think there's an element of, yes, I've got my whole faithful. It's in my toolkit. I go WordPress, bang, podcast, Pinecast, and GarageBand, done. Community, probably Slack, but might be something else out there, like a Twitter community or something. But yeah, I don't find that it influences it too much. It's more like these frameworks and tools will help me do what I want to do. I've got enough understanding out there. If I don't, I know who to speak to that might give me a good direction as well. What about you, Sam?
So I've got a mic answer for this one. So with my side projects being basically comics and stuff, tech platforms don't really come into the equation. Really, I guess my side projects, as I've said before, it's kind of a reaction to being so close to technology all day. So when I'm working on comics, I want to kind of get away from the code, and I want to do something that's I suppose not relaxing. It's the wrong kind of word, or cathartic. But it's just something completely different to what I spend my days doing. It's just a nice way to sort of switch off my brain as well, because a lot of the stuff I can do, you do get into a bit of a flow. I guess the only thing that comes to mind was an idea I was thinking about the other day, which was, I wonder if you can start utilising CSS grids to start making, comics online a bit more kind of flexible. That's one thing that I've kind of thought about and pondered, but whether I actually go ahead and do that remains to be seen. I might just, as I've said before, I might just drop the idea online and let someone take it and give me a credit for it.
We've talked about that though. We should get that community set up. Let's work together on this. Whoa!
I did enjoy everyone's face when he said that. All three of us were like, "Ooh!"
It was a beard stroke.
Yeah, CSS
grid. There you
go.
You guys go away and build it, and I'll keep on playing with my pens and ink.
You can provide the actual content.
Yeah. How about you, Jesse?
On that, CSS grid is like magic. I feel like I've introduced people to it, and they just like, whoa, there's so much you could do. It's so cool. Are you talking about like having an open source kind of like mixer where you can just come up with ideas and someone else builds it? That sounds like a fun community, if that is what you're thinking.
Yeah, I guess my line of thinking, just to quickly jump on that. My line of thinking was primarily, just do a comic just as a proof of concept, just see how well it could be achieved. But then I guess you could take that further and, can you build some sort of framework that would allow people to build their own comics in there? Because, there's a massive webcomic community, which currently is just restricted to essentially JPEGs or, static images on Instagram or on Webtoons or something like that. So it's just about, is there a way we can sort of use the flexible medium of the web to, deliver a bit more of a flexible comic reading experience, I guess. So lots of food for thought. But anyway, sorry, go. What were you going to say, Jesse?
I'm lost in that idea now. It just sounds really interesting. There used to be a really famous online webcomic, didn't there? I always forget the name of it, but devs seem to just...
XKCD.
Yeah, see?
Everyone loves that.
Just imagining that like coming back to life, if it's not still going, probably is still going.
Oh, it's still going.
Oh no,
yeah.
it's still going. Yeah.
You just come across people that just seem to have a XKDC for any scenario as well, which is really funny. I don't work with anyone like that at the moment, or maybe I do and they just don't share them. So yeah, if any of my co-workers listen to this, send me the webcomics. I think when I have like taken things on as side projects, it depends on what I want to get out of it. I think, like Sai was saying, if I kind of want to get something done, I will go for the tried and tested stuff, the stuff that I know that works. Whereas like if I'm trying to learn from the project while I'm doing it, I'll definitely reach for different tools. And this definitely even comes across like to little design side projects that I've done. I was primarily just using Sketch, like most designers, I think, until a couple of years ago. And then, I wanted to redesign my site, and then I redesigned it in Figma initially because I'd never used Figma before. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it all in there. And there's so many, there's a different prototyping tool that comes out every week for designers as well. So, there's always finding excuses to use those. And then you can bring them into, I don't like to recommend things at work unless I've, had a bit of a play with them. But yeah, recently we were looking, I watched some videos by the guy, I think his name's Richard Harris, that created Svelte. And I found that kind of like what he was talking about. And because it's a framework, but it's not a framework. I forget what he calls it now, but I was kind of drawn into that. And I think it's the first time that I've really looked at like a bit of technology and been like, I want to build something with that, but I don't know what. And my friend at work actually built like a little website with it, and it was really cool to see that like he'd done it really quickly, and he said it was a really nice experience and stuff. So I've been kind of side-eyeing it and being like, maybe I'll rebuild my website with that like down the line at some point. But because I've got like a quite ambitious side project on the go at the moment, it's kind of holding me back. But with that, because I wanted to learn, because I wanted to do kind of some back end stuff myself, the tools that I picked were stuff that I've never used before. But that's what I wanted to get out of it as well. So I'm like using Firebase to do all of the back end stuff, which is really quick and easy to use, and the docs are really great. Loads of videos. So yeah, it depends.
Can you tell us a little bit more about this side project you're going on, Jesse? What it actually is.
Yeah, I don't have like a really concise lift pitch for it yet. I'd say that basically it's kind of been born out of frustration for me in that I've had not really settled on I heard you talking about this in the last episode, Si, actually, about you using, is it Tick tasks or Tick? Yeah. And like I've seen it on Twitter as well. So many people talking about like there's just no good app to like keep track of like little to-dos, but then people do like quite deep and meaningful work as well. And there's nowhere where you can do both of those things in one go. So my thinking was, there's apps that I really like doing kind of written stuff on. I use IA writer. I always forget which way around those letters go. And, I used to use Dropbox Paper in a previous job, and I loved that, and it worked really well. So I kind of feel like those editors are really nice. There's elements of, I think Dropbox Paper is the one that I've kind of really loved using. And then for like tracking tasks and stuff, I used to use this app called Sunsama, which was really, really good. But they, they're doing really well. They got onto YC and they've gone like enterprise. So the pricing's like crazy and stuff like that. And I was kind of like, what is there for the, the solo person that just wants to keep track of their own stuff and stuff like that. And then I was like, yeah, I'll just build my own. Yeah, okay, I know how to do this. I'll do it. So that's kind of the inspiration of like where it's come from. So the output is ideally, a combination of a task tracker and I guess a note taking or like a documentation type app for individuals. Part of the reason why it's for individuals and not for teams is because doing collaborative documentation stuff is a bit difficult. I don't want to attempt that or...
Fair point, though, man.
Yet, maybe one day.
Yeah, I mean, I interviewed a guy, Dan Vinicum, last year, I think it was, and he built a project management app for the solo developer, and he sold it.
Yeah.
So he proved there's a market for this, and there's definitely demand. But it was again, like you, it's not satisfying your needs, so I'm going to go and make it and try and learn along the process. So, yeah, I mean, keep us in the loop on that project and let us know if you want any user testers, because I'm pretty sure all of us will go, yeah, I've not found anything like this yet. Let's see how this works.
Yeah.
Just gone on the Sunsama website, and their headline is "The Daily Planner for Elite professionals. And it's like, what's an elite professional? I can't use that. I'm not an elite professional.
I'm not a professional.
I had this conversation about Fantastical as well the other day. Like, loads of people were saying how amazing it is, and I like popped it open and I looked at it and I was like, this is it seems okay. And then my friend said to me, he was like, well, yeah, because your calendar's like empty most of the time, so you don't see the benefit of it. I was like, yeah, I guess I'm not an elite, calendar junkie. Yeah.
I am.
Do you use it?
No, I don't use Fantastical. I stick to the classics. I've got Apple Calendar and Outlook for most of my stuff, and then I just plug it all into my phone and my watch and everything, so I've got it handy.
There's also a funny, there's another like app out there that came really close to doing what I want to do called Time Stripe. I actually got like heart palpitations as I was like going through their website. I was like, oh my God, have they built what I want already? It was like a mix of like, maybe they've solved my problem, which made me feel relieved. And then maybe they've solved my problem, which then made me like, oh God, have I wasted my time on this? Which is an interesting place to be in, I think. I've had friends that have started side projects and invested like 5-10 grand in it and then been like, oh, someone's launched something better, so I've just packed it in, which seems quite sad.
Yeah, never give up, man. That's probably a good segue into the next question, actually, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mike, do you want to give us your question for the week?
Yes. So most likely we have all experienced imposter syndrome in a professional capacity. I was one of those sort of fortunate ones that didn't think I had until someone was like, I heard on a podcast, someone was like, even if you think you've just had a very lucky career, that you've got jobs because of luck, it's like, that's probably imposter syndrome. And that's pretty much how I feel about my life. So, but I'd be interested to know, have you experienced imposter syndrome in side projects at all? I'm going to go to Sam first, as I feel like he has previously expressed that he has. I don't want listeners to think I'm just bullying him. So, Sam.
Easy one for me. Yes, absolutely, definitely. I still get imposter syndrome, like even now after years and years. Like, I'm not like I'm not a big-headed person, but I'd consider myself, a competent artist. I can put mine to most things given enough time. But there are still times where you just think I'm sort of just playing at this comic making thing. Because I'm, at the moment I'm not making money doing it or anything like that. It's not a viable profession. That kind of, it seeps in when I follow a lot of people who do it as a professional, as their profession. So you do sort of start comparing yourself. Yeah, you've got to work really hard to quiet that voice in your head that kind of is saying, you're not like these people. You're nowhere near the level of these people. You should just throw in the towel now because you're not going to get. It's not a nice mindset to have, but it does happen.
And does it? This is a very like leading question, and I feel like it might sort of dawn on you, kind of thing. But you were sort of mentioning in the sort of pre-recording that you were looking at videos for lettering, and that you'd realised that the lettering you'd done it fell down loads of sort of pitfalls and stuff. Is it times like that you're like, why am I even making a comic if I can't even do lettering? Or is that like no, this is perfect, this is a learning opportunity, I'm smashing it?
Yeah, no, it's definitely the second one for me. In that particular scenario, it was more of a here's a way I can really improve what I'm doing, and sort of streamline my process a bit more and things like that. It's kind of hard to put my finger on where the feeling comes from, because I've got a particular style that I tend to sort of work in, but I follow lots of people with lots of different styles. So I follow people with like really sort of detailed, amazing color work, and I look at my stuff and kind of go, oh, that's I think that's where it comes from. It's where I start comparing what I've done to other people. Rather than sort of seeing errors, because I always see errors in my own work all the time, because I've been there the whole time. I know where I've made mistakes, and I know where I've drawn a line that shouldn't be there. Even if it looks okay to everybody else, I know that line shouldn't be there. I think I'm kind of going off on a tangent here.
diving deep or deep in diving.
Starting to unpack my dark sort of thoughts about my own artwork.
Jesse, what about you? Have you experienced imposter syndrome in side projects?
I was thinking about how to answer this. I was going to answer it in a bit of a Twitter meme fashion of what is a side project if not a place to safely get imposter syndrome.
Ooh, there's the episode title.
Nice.
I mean, for me, I've mostly, there's definitely been like design side projects that I've done where I've kind of been like, I know exactly what I'm doing. But even then, within your day job, you know, I get it all the time. But yeah, I feel like everything I've tried to take on, I tried to build a game last year. I had no idea what I was doing, just had it the whole time. There was part of me that was like, I feel like this could be a really cool career. There's no way I could ever do it, but or like without, you know, going back to like being entry level. So no, I think I have got it all the time, but I kind of enjoy that of like, yeah, I am a noob. So what? You know, I need to learn all of this stuff again from scratch, or, you know, this is something that I'm developing a passion in, I want to get better at. So yeah, kind of own the being rubbish at it at the beginning.
Fair enough. And Si?
Yeah, I mean, we had this conversation about the question. I was like, I don't think I do. I all the time professionally, and I've spoken about this publicly about having imposter syndrome in my career, but I don't think with side projects I've ever felt that way. But then as we were talking, I just thought, yes, I have. Yes, I really have. So with the music podcast I've been doing for like 15 odd years now, I remember in the early days, people going, "Oh wow, you must be an amazing, massive DJ that you're gonna have to come to our party in Ibiza and all this." I was like, Jesus, I'm well out of my depth now, and it was panic stations because people were going, "Yeah, but you're an amazing DJ, surely." I went, no, I'm a hobbyist. I'm a bedroom DJ sort of type. But I was unaware of this sort of this persona I was giving off. I guess as a DJ, you kind of make out that you're the best DJ in the world as part of the game, especially when you're a naive 20-something thinking you are. As reality chicks in there, you go, well out of my depth now, you know. And I think that's probably the worst case I've had of imposter syndrome with side projects specifically. You know, I do it for fun. I still do it now just for fun. And if anyone else enjoys it, sweet. And luckily, we do still get enough downloads to make it worthwhile. The guys I work with, they treat it as a side project as well. And funnily enough, I think Matt, who is one of the other DJs, he put it on his LinkedIn last week because he was featured on BBC Sounds as like a new sound. I can't remember what the phrase was, but he was like, do I put this out there on LinkedIn as a side project? That was his actual caption. Complete tangent, but I think the whole music thing does put you in the limelight and you feel like everyone's an imposter. And you can probably look at the music industry as everyone in the industry thinks they're probably an imposter as well. That's probably one of the worst industries to be in, to feel like you've got imposter syndrome. I mean, Sam, you talk about creativity and comics. Again, I think everyone who's got an element of creativity feels like, I'm not good at this. There's always someone better than me. And that's why I like to do it. Mm-hmm. But then maybe that, like you say, is it what feeds the idea and desire to this? Looping back to a previous episode, what motivates us to do a side project? I want to take it on. I want to give it a go. I'm at my depth. Why am I at my depth? If they can do it, why can't I? So yeah, it's a very interesting topic. I'm glad you brought it up because I don't know if I specifically feel like I suffer it, but then you can realise the patterns.
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of, I posed the question. I was trying to think of how it applied to me, and I think. So what I try and do with my side projects is when I learn things, I then write a blog post because that helps sort of cement my knowledge. And it's like, I learn it, I think I know it really well. So I'll write a blog post and I think this is the best. And then like a week later, I'll just be like, what the hell was I talking about? I don't know anything about this. And that's what it's weird. It's sort of like a delayed imposter syndrome. It's like my blog post has been out for a week, a month, maybe even a year. And I'm just like, what the hell was I chatting about? This is like, I don't know. I've not got the authority to publish a blog post on Cloudflare or Eleventy. But then like every now and then I'll get a random DM or a tweet and someone going, oh, thanks for this blog post. It really helped. Or I was reading this blog post and I noticed this little bit, but the rest of it was spot on. And it's those little like sparks, those little bits of communication that sort of let me know that, yeah, maybe the blog posts are useful. I mean, I mainly write my blog posts for me anyway, so that I don't have to Google stuff because it, you know, if it takes me a while to find an answer. But yeah, that's where it really settles in for me is when I'm writing blog posts, and every now and then when I post a beer review as well, because I follow loads of beer reviewers on Instagram, and they're all like, oh, it's got an oaty mouthfeel and the aftertaste is slightly acidic, and I'm just like, it tastes good, I like it. It's just like, I've to the followers on Instagram, I'm like, what are they getting from my reviews? Like, but again, one of my sister's friends messaged me the other day. He's like, I'm going to go out and buy that beer based entirely on your review. So
you've reminded me I need to go get some Bishop's Fingers after seeing your review from last week.
Love a Bishop's Finger.
Here's your episode title.
It is there. It is, the imposter syndrome is there, which is weird in side projects because, as Jesse said, like, side projects are the prime place to be an imposter because you're not being paid to fail in a weird kind of way. But being an imposter is not failure at all. I need to sort of caveat that.
Do you think imposter syndrome would be as prevalent if we didn't have things like social media? And this kind of, or at least from my perspective, there's not necessarily pressure, but as an artist, you want to share the stuff that you're working on. Just sort of keep your network or your followers sort of fed with a steady stream of content.
I think social media has introduced an element of it quite a lot, actually, because it's a platform to communicate, and it's your profile that you're building on, really. I mean, whatever we all use our social medias for, I generally see it as my personal profile. I can build on it, but I'm putting myself out there, and everyone seems to do this, and you can go into the deep sciences of what social media is doing to people right now. But I think it's definitely, for all its sins, it's highlighted a lot of problems and not necessarily addressed them well. And it's only now, talking about the stuff earlier with helping women with the domestic violence stuff, it's only now we're trying to solve it when it's got a little bit too late. Well, we should have addressed this early on, but we didn't know what was going to happen with social media. Take us back 20 years, it didn't exist. The best thing we had was a forum or a BB, space. There was no social media. It was just a private space to talk shit. And I think that's where we need to kind of just think, you know what? We all know what we're here to do. We need to have confidence in ourselves and just kind of take it on a bit at a time, because we're not superhumans and we are vulnerable and we are putting ourselves out there, but don't be a dick about it. Just be a mate and help me if you want.
Nice.
Well said.
I like it.
DBAD is my favourite acronym. Don't be a dick.
Talking of social media, I think that brings us to the wrap up, doesn't it?
Oh, another segue.
Oh, smooth, nice.
I'm on it this week, guys.
He's taking over. Sam wants to own this bad boy now, doesn't he? Take it, man. I'm not bothered. Shall we go around the table? Just give everyone the socials so people can get hold of each other. Mike?
I am Mike Streety on all the good social networks.
Nice. Sam?
I'm Nocturnal Monkey on Twitter, and no, that's pretty much it, actually. I was going to say Instagram, but I don't have that account anymore. That's my personal / web-based or ranty kind of stuff. And Skinny Drawn Boy is my Twitter and Instagram handle for my art stuff.
Beautiful. And Jesse, how can we get hold of you and find your stuff?
Yeah, I'm at Jesse Payne 27 on Twitter. I have to say as well, Jesse is spelled JESSE because of Toy Story. Lots of people put an I in it, no I. But yeah, that's the account that I'm mostly active on. Don't really do Instagram or LinkedIn much anymore.
And I'm at Cy on the Twitter and at Cy Jobling on all the others. If you want to get in touch with any of us, we are all also available in our On The Side Slack community. If you pop on over to ontheside.network, you can join us there and have a good conversation about the stuff we've brought up. Maybe bring some other conversations to the community as well. For the podcast, you can get hold of at Make Life Work Pod on the Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. You can email hello@makelifeworkpodcast.com. All the show notes and archives are available on the website, makelifeworkpodcast.com. And if you'd like to leave us a like, rating or review, we are on all the podcast apps as well. Mike?
Out to a guy called Jam on the Typo 3 podcast, who at the end of his podcast says, if you enjoyed the podcast, share it with a friend. If you don't, share it with an enemy. And I quite like that
Ooh,
as a
very
sign
good.
off.
The other thing I just want to point out, we still have some Tick Premium vouchers to give away for a month. If you hook up us on the socials or drop us an email, we'll send you a code and you get the first month free for Tick Premium. Anything else people want to talk about?
Nope.
Not today.
Thanks for joining us, Jesse. Good to have you on board.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
And we will hopefully get you along another time as well. And just a final point, this is the final episode of this season. We will be wrapping up for a few weeks while we all take a break. And Mike goes and has a baby. So, there we go. Not literally, his family.
All right, cheers. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye.